Hey everybody, and welcome to this bonus live broadcast. I'm Kim Walsh-Phillips here with our Power Tribe and Inner Circle members, and I am so excited to share this with you today. You know, when we saw the stimulus package coming out for relief for businesses right now, we knew we needed to go to an expert, and so that's exactly what we have today. We don't just have one with us, we have two. So I'll be introducing them to you in just a minute. But there's a lot of various information out there, and there's also a lot of people sharing the information that do not have, that have a vested interest in it, if you know what I'm saying. So I wanted to get a third party that could be completely unbiased in sharing with you what you need to know in order to get all the funding that's available to you right now. But let's start by seeing who we have on here right now. So while you're on here with us in this moment, could you go ahead and put into the Q&A box where you are tuning in from right now? And I'm going to read off some of our members' names. Go ahead and put into that chat box right now. Let me know where you are tuning in from right at this moment. All right. So yeah, John, who's actually a neighbor of mine, mentioned that he's in Alpharetta. We have Dennis. Glad to see you got in, John. Dennis in Manawa, New Jersey. We have Brian in Laguna Beach. We have Rich in the Hamptons, New York. Hey, Rich, glad to see you got on. We have Matthew in Nashville, Priscilla in Maryland. We have Scott in Texas. Fantastic. So we're all over the U.S., and this is meant to serve you. So definitely take notes, but as well, you want to have, we'll be putting the recording of today's workshop inside our member portal. One quick heads up about something we have going on tomorrow. If you haven't already signed up for it, this is again free to attend, and it's at powerfulprofessionals.com/easy button in there for all of you. We're putting on a free workshop tomorrow for businesses to quickly set up a webinar and sales funnel. So if you haven't accepted payment online before, if you want to quickly find out how you can generate leads and get a free funnel, we're going to give you a funnel completely built out that you can use inside your own business. And this is the workshop for you. Snag a spot, and that's at powerfulprofessionals.com/easy button. That is on for tomorrow. And we'll be doing a free masterclass sharing with you strategies you can use right now, including all the tech, you know, the stuff that confuses the heck out of people. We're taking all of that confusion away, showing you exactly what to use to get people to opt in, exactly what to use to begin to sell online so you can get up and running in just a matter of minutes. I see Tracy just joined us right now. We have Karen on here as well. A bunch of you are hopping on, so glad to see you. With that, I'm going to introduce you to our amazing expert guest today. We have Vicki Kasuda. She's a CPA, CFO, and coach. She's a CPA with over 20 years of experience in financial analysis. Vicki has worked with organizations ranging from small to mid-sized businesses through Fortune 500 companies. Vicki's breadth of experience brings a unique approach to understanding the challenges business owners face on a daily basis and methods necessary to solve them. Vicki enjoys coaching business owners to better understand their financial information and make strategic improvements inside their business. Welcome, Vicki, to today's call.
Thank you, Kim. I'm very happy to be here. Lots of stuff going on.
Lots of stuff going on, for sure. So I appreciate it. It was literally yesterday that I reached out to you and asked you guys to come on, and you jumped on right away, made sure that you knew exactly about our group and who we are serving here. And I think a neat way to even get to know them a little more while you get started is if you can do us a huge favor and let us know inside the chat right now, what industry are you in? What industry are you in? Let us know that inside the chat, and we can also share that once we get into the Q&A. Vicki is going to share today's content, and I'm going to be asking questions as they come up, but we chatted before we got started, and she would love to get questions all along the way. So if you have a question about something she might be sharing, then just let me know. And I will ask her live during the call, and we'll also get into some Q&A in the end as well. With that, Vicki, it's all yours.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here today. With me also is Demit Agnanos. Demit is the principal of Results CFO. So we're here together as a team. I will be doing most of the presenting, and then he will jump in and help with some Q&A. So you have both of us to challenge here today. You want to say anything, Demit? Say hello.
Thanks for having us, everyone. And might as well get started, Vicki.
All right, great. Okay, I am going to share my screen. We have a bunch of stuff ready for you guys and excited to get into it. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Okay, so Kim asked us to come on board and go through a COVID-19 and the financial relief packages that are out there. So as you'll see, the title of our presentation today is Survive, Thrive, Triumph, because that is really what we are going through, how we're looking at the situation that we're in right now. We've actually started a program to help businesses and our current clients get through this, somewhat trying time with a lot of unknowns. And we've also created a Facebook group just to help all businesses that are interested in joining learn, everything that we're learning, because we're kind of learning things by the minute. It's a bit of a moving target here, but just for us to help each other in sharing information, and we will be publishing a lot there. So at the end of the program, we will give you access to join the Survive, Thrive, Triumph community. But really where we came up with these terms were, we want to help businesses survive this difficult time, right? There's a lot of unknowns, like we said, but there's also opportunities to thrive and come out even stronger at the end, and look back someday and say, wow, I really triumphed and, came out of this as an even stronger business. So we're looking at, dealing with the immediate as well as the longer term in, kind of getting us all through these trying days. All right, so we are all better together and stronger as a team. So we're really taking that team approach, both with our clients, with this group that we're putting together, Survive, Thrive, Triumph. You guys are already part of a fantastic team with Power Tribe and Inner Circle members. And just, our overarching idea that we want to just portray to everyone is you will get through this. We will all get through this. And if we all just kind of help each other and we can help you understand everything in a clear way and what your next step should be. And you can really just kind of, survive through the stormy seas. So we keep saying, keep calm and carry on. And we really mean that, because when you have all of the important information, there's solutions for you. So we're hoping to bring that to you today. All right, so the first step, how we are advising businesses, is to first, before anything with stimulus packages or understanding anything that's out there and being offered up to businesses, is really take a step back and assess, right? So your money coming in and money going out. So first, what are the risks to your revenue streams, right? So are there customers who are just going to stop paying during this pandemic, where the revenue is just going to completely stop? Are there customers that you invoice and there's outstanding invoices out there and you're looking at your accounts receivable, but it's not looking like they're going to be paying those outstanding invoices anytime soon. So you're not going to be having that cash coming in. Are customers canceling or pausing services? Pausing seems to be the buzzword right now, right? What does pausing mean? So they're pausing services for now, hoping to pick up later. But really, what does that mean to you as a business owner? Are you ever going to see that revenue? So you need to really understand the intentions of your customers so that you know what cash can you depend on coming in over the next couple of months. And then the reality of how long will it take for revenue to ramp back up when the dust settles? So we have to be realistic in knowing the economy is not going to just turn on one magical day and all of a sudden you're back to where you were, immediately before this happened. So as you're kind of looking out over the next 3 to 6 months, how long do you foresee that it's going to take for businesses to really ramp up their spending again. And then position yourself for opportunities once this is over. And this is really a point where you're trying to hammer home, is that there will be opportunities. So what comes out of this is not all bad. You've probably all seen the stories of, after the 2018, all the amazing companies that were created after that. So we definitely, know the stories are out there and believe that there will be opportunities. So, in reality, there's going to be less competition, right? Some companies will not weather this storm. So that could be an opportunity for you. There's also going to be different ways to pivot the types of services you're providing and how you're providing them, right? So look at gyms now that are all turning into these online workouts. It might have been something they never expected to do in the past, and they're starting to do it pretty well. So positioning yourself to what your business looks like after the fact is also very important in understanding what the next several months are going to look like. All right, then in this taking a step back process, we need to look at expenses, right? We were looking at the money coming in the door, now what's going out. So we really need to take a realistic look at what expenses can be immediately cut, what can be delayed, and we need to take action on that today, okay, if you haven't done so already. So, we are advising you need to get lean. We like to see all of our customers being lean and all the businesses we've advised being lean. But now, we all really understand that in order to survive, we need to reduce expenses as much as possible. When you look at things like rent, utilities, loans, you need to be having conversations with your vendors and your lenders, okay? There's programs out there, not even related to any of these stimulus packages, but where they are allowing for reductions or deferments. Take advantage of that wherever you can. Okay, so even though there's some government programs out there today where they're saying, okay, we're going to give you funds to pay your rent. Well, some of those funds are only for short periods of time, right? They're not going to take you necessarily through 6 months of, having a hard time covering your rent. So you need to have those conversations regardless of what type of packages you think you might apply for or you think you might, be able to get. Okay, and then really look at payroll. Payroll is a little bit of an emotional thing for those of you that have employees or contractors or probably a smaller team within this group. You really need to look at what's the best for both you and your customers. What's the best, and your employees. What's the best decision? Is it layoffs? Is it furloughs where you're reducing, you're not paying them for a period of time or reducing the amount of hours they're working? Or is it that you should just go out and get a loan or try to get a grant, right? So there's different options out there, but you really need to look at your individual situation. And quite honestly, laying people off may be the best idea. So don't use that, don't look at that as a failure. Definitely something, yep.
Thank you for that. And we'll get into in a moment about like the requirements to get the payroll program with how many people you can defer or furlough versus not. And I'm curious about that conversation, but also I wanted to mention a comment that John shared about, and he's an insurance broker, and he shared how he just he recently bought a building. He just talked to his bank about deferring 2 months, and they just tacked it on to the end of his loan without causing any other issues. So banks and other organizations are willing to work with you. They want to work with you right now versus talking to them when it's too late. This is the best time to talk to them about different options that you have that won't have long-term ramifications. In fact, it'll give a positive opportunity for your business because it gives you more cash flow at this moment.
Kim, also, just to let everybody know, it's not only just mortgages, it's other loans as well. And most of the banks that we're dealing with our clients are giving 90 days initially, so a deferment of 90 days, so that's 3 payments. But the key to it, like you said, is communication, open lines of communication. You need to ask the bank to do that. They're not just going to do it automatically because they don't know where you are. But if you ask them, the majority of them, from what we're seeing with both national, regional, and community banks, are allowing their customers and their borrowers to defer up to 90 days of payments.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Yep. Okay, great. Oops. Okay. So what we're advising is that you need to take action now. Okay. So what are a couple of the things that, are some of these first steps? So as you look at your revenue, you look at your expenses, forecast out your cash for the next 6 months, at least. Okay. If you know what's coming in, what's going out, where you're able to work with your lenders and your vendors, that is going to help you determine what the best options and next steps are for your business, right? So it's very different decisions if you think you're going to run out of money in a month versus you think you're going to run out of money in 4 months. And the path that you go down, even with the government assistance, might be different based on those answers, right? So understanding what your cash flow is going to look like is critical to this. And then you need to look at how your business was running before this happened, before COVID-19. What were the intentions for your business then? And what are the intentions for your business going to be when this is over, right? Because beforehand, you might have been thinking, I want to hire a huge team. Now you may be thinking differently, right? After going through this and seeing what that means. So, what the future is going to look like is very important also in deciding what paths to take. And then one of the other things that is really big that we keep focusing on is, what was your cash flow issue before the crisis? Okay, because we don't want to see folks going into debt because those options are out there if it's not really the best approach for you. So if you are having a hard time, with cash and covering your overhead beforehand, it's going to be even harder for you to cover debt payments or loan payments when this is over. So we need to be smart and not take on more than we're going to be able to handle, or take on too much that is going to cause us additional issues when the crisis is over. So just an important thing, there's a lot out there, but we want to make sure that the paths we're going down are the right options for where we are as business owners. So the main point for this presentation is help is on the way. And there's a lot of information coming at us from all different places. So we want to kind of, help you guys work through what the options are. So first, there's federal and there's state options out there, both loans and grants. Not all states are offering things right now. And you may not be able to do both. So you want to understand what are the options that your states are offering, understand the federal options that we're going to go through today, and then determine what's best for you. I know the states are being very aggressive. I heard, I spoke to a client today where they're looking for, you have to apply by the 4th of April. And you have to show that you already had economic damage. Well, not everyone can do that, right? Restaurants, hair salons, spas, they've had economic damage already, but consultants not necessarily. So that's extremely aggressive and probably isn't going to meet a lot of businesses' needs. So there's different requirements, there's different benefits. You need to understand the difference between both, but realizing that if you go for one, you may not be qualified then for another. So you want to make smart choices.
Vicki, when it comes to individuals and looking at their own states, what wording or what department should they be looking for to figure out what their state is offering? And I know even some have a city or a town program through some of their economic development corporations. They're offering things as well. Where might they look when it comes to state funding?
It's different in every state. I would say from the state side, is it the Department of Revenue we're seeing more things through? Or it's more the Department of Revenue. And the Department of Labor.
The other thing is that what we're also seeing, because we have clients in a number of different states, there are specific resource pages on each one of the state's websites. And it's coronavirus resources, something along those lines. Every state has it. And then they usually have it broken down business and personal, or business and individual. So you can go in and it'll see, like for Maryland, for instance, with SDAT, State Department of Assessment and Taxation, there's 4 different business programs that they have available to people, and they have a website or a page for each one of those with the different eligibility requirements, the application link, and a number of other informational type of links there. But it's usually right on the website. Virginia has one. It's coronavirus resources right on their main business page. So again, it's different for every state, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and what I can do is, I just heard of a resource link that has all the different states on it. I will check it out after we get off the call today, and I will let you know, Kim, and give you the link to send out to your group.
Sounds good. Thanks to me.
Yeah, we're usually seeing like maryland.gov/coronavirus, like pretty like to the point. But yeah, so even if you just, so hopefully Danita will be able, that's a good resource. And then just searching the state and coronavirus is pretty much guaranteed a win there. Okay, so then, we're hearing grants versus loans, and what does that mean, right? So a loan you have to pay back, a grant you don't. Right, so you think it might be logic, but we would love to see people go towards grants versus loans, right? So if that is essentially, free money that is being given, you have to jump through some hoops to get it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have to pay it back and you stay whole when this is all over, that would be a better option than a loan. Again, depending on the business, but if we're just looking at a high level, we like to see people go for the grants versus the loans. And then some of the other options that are a little more complex is loans versus tax credits, making those decisions. Is it better to get, the money now to spend on payroll, or opt for a tax credit where you'll see the benefit later? Deferred tax payments, where you don't have to pay for your employee taxes today, but you will have to pay for it later. So needing to make sure you can manage that also. So obviously a lot of different types of relief or ways for the government to give you relief, and you just need to look at what's best for your individual situation. As we go through the next several slides, we will talk about a lot of this in more detail. So you need to take the time to determine the program that's going to best suit short-term and long-term needs. Do not rush to the first thing available. Consult with your advisor. That's what we're saying to everyone. We are expecting it to take the banks about 7 to 10 days to be ready. This is information we are getting both from government sources as well as our banking relationships that we're having one-on-one conversations with. So, it's good. You're not going to apply for something and have money in the bank tomorrow. They're still working through how to execute this. And there's definitely some concerns on the bank side of how they're actually going to do this.
So Vicki, hold on 1 second. I'd just like to let everybody know, I had a conversation about 2 hours ago with one of our banking representatives for one of our clients. And she was telling me it's a pretty large bank. They're a preferred SBA lender, and Vicki will get into a little bit more of that throughout this presentation. But she was telling me that last year they had over 3,000 applications for SBA loans. They're expecting 40,000 applications in the next month alone, just from their current customers. And they've already made an internal decision that they're not going to be taking on any loan applications, whether it's through the SBA, through the CARES Act, if they're not current customers with the bank in the business side. So the banks aren't ready because they don't have enough resources right now, people, to be able to handle 40,000 applications. She told me there's no way that everybody's saying, oh, we're going to get money in a day. There's no way that it's going to be turned around in a day. They haven't even started to get the instructions or the guidance from SBA yet. So we're being told by our contacts that we got to wait a week to 10 days before we even sit down with the bank. So everybody needs to just understand that there are things that you have control over and things that you don't have control over. Take care of the things that you have control over, like Vicki will get into at the end of the presentation, some of the things that you can start doing right now to be ready to put these applications in. But don't go in bright-eyed and bushy-tailed thinking that you're going to be able to get it's going to be processed and the next day you're going to have cash in your account. It's probably not going to happen that quickly. And you're going to be in line with everybody else that's applying as well. Department of Labor here in Maryland, 40,000 people have been asking them, no, excuse me, I made a mistake. 4,000, they're getting 4,000 requests every single day on the unemployment side. And they have, with the new independent contractors and all those that weren't allowed to get unemployment before and are now allowed to apply, they're telling them, don't even apply yet, sign up. We'll send you an email. Give us your email address. We'll send you an email when we're ready to talk to you. Because they're only capable of handling what they've known and been able to do in the past. So again, everybody's learning this in real time, and we just have to all be patient.
We did, knowing that was coming, if you do have a relationship, and I'm sure you guys will talk about this, but if you do have a relationship with a bank for your business, it's a good idea to reach out now. So I already, had an email on Friday to my business manager of the bank to connect with him. And those of you who do work with local, smaller banks, a lot of times there's not as many resources that they have, but these moments, it's really good when you have a relationship with somebody. And it's why I recommend, if you can go through a local bank for your business, at least to have one account there. We have our payroll through that company specifically. It's a good idea because I have a name, I have an email, I have a relationship with someone to say, when it comes out, are you the right person? And it was already confirmed, so we're already on the list. Like those important things to get ready to go if you can.
Absolutely. And the other thing is that some of the banks are basically saying that with regard to that, we've reached out, we've already started talking to them, and now I just lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Vicki. Sorry about that, everyone.
Well, I think I know what you're going to say, even though you're taking away from my future slide. But
Sorry.
they are planning to only service customers that they already have relationships with, right? So anyone coming to them that doesn't have a relationship is definitely going to be put on, maybe not even be serviced, and definitely put at the end of the list. So that relationship is
I had 3 messages today because I sent out a few texts to some friends who are colleagues of mine to say we were doing this workshop today to invite them to come. And one of them actually messaged that his law firm is taking on the service of filling out some of the applications for their clients and facilitating a loan with their bank. So there will be other things you can do, because there are people who have good relationships with business banks and are setting these up ahead of time. So all my members right now are watching is like, oh crap, I don't have a relationship with the business bank. There are going to be other things that you can do. So you're going to be in good shape there. There's also a grant that you can get right now that's for $10,000 that you don't need any of this stuff for. We'll talk about that on this workshop too. It took me like 5 minutes to fill out. It's super easy. So we'll talk about that also. So don't be overwhelmed. Everyone who's watching right now, take this deep breath. There's some great things coming.
So what I did remember what I was going to say. I apologize. Okay. You have to make sure that whatever banks you're working with, because these are, even though they're not being processed through the SBA, they're SBA approved loans, and not every bank is an SBA lender or preferred or approved lender. So you need to make sure some smaller community banks are not don't have that designation, so they won't be able to process these loans. Also, there are some banks that are already saying, even though they are SBA lenders, they're not doing any of these loans at all, even for their current customer base. I don't think that that's a great move on their part, but there's talk of that because they don't have the resources to be able to handle it all. Right. So you just have to be very cautious. You need to reach out to your bank, like Kim said. That's the first step. Find out if they're going to be doing it, when they're going to be ready, if they know, and if they already have a list or a package that you can put together ahead of time.
Awesome.
Okay, I see April. That's okay. So there's a question up here, or an answer really, that the grant process is super easy. You can do it from your cell phone. It takes less than 10 minutes. So Kim, I guess that's the one you're talking about. Is this the federal ones that were available
Right.
right from the beginning, or you're talking
Yeah,
about
I'll put the
something
link
more
in the
local?
chat right now. No, not from the beginning. It's the one for
Okay.
$10,000 that you get, they said within 5 days. And I'll put this
Mhm.
in. It really, all that it's asking, I'm putting this into chat for everybody. All that it's asks for is your revenue from the, from before, for 1 year before January 31st, 2020. And just give the revenue,
Mhm.
you give cost of goods, you give your bank information. That's basically
Mhm.
all it asks for. That's it.
Mhm.
So if you can pull those numbers, you have applied, and the $10,000 you get from this doesn't disqualify you from any other programs. Now, again, you want to check with local, because some of your local might say if you got anything, you can't do it. So you want to check on that, but that's the one that took us, like, it took me about 5 minutes to fill out.
And it was that SB. I'm interested to see the link. If that was SB, the SB.
It is, Vicki.
It is. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's the EIDL one.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Good. All right. We're going to go through that, but I didn't even realize it was that easy. So that's good
Yeah, it was that
information.
easy. And let me just read it out loud. Are you going to have the link on screen?
I'm not going to have the link
Okay,
on
let me
screen,
read out
no.
loud for those that watch this as a recording. They won't see the chat. So it's COVID-19 relief.sba.gov/the #. And that's all that you need to do to go to. And again, it just takes a couple minutes to fill that one out.
Okay, great.
Unlike any other SBA application ever.
Well, that's what my first point on this slide, right? So the government's trying to be very flexible, like to keep businesses running and keep people employed. I mean, it's really to the point like we've never seen, like where you're usually reading through this stuff and that they forgot this, they didn't deal with this.
I don't know what I was doing in 1978. I was 30. Why do I have to tell you this?
You're right. The SBA process is very difficult. So so this just kind of supports that. So now that process for the 10,000 obviously is pretty easy. We are, even I read the actual bill yesterday, so it was 880 pages. So we're getting, other information as far as what this is going to take to do this. So I also want to be realistic in that, they are going to require documentation. So, what we are hearing, especially to determine the larger loans, you have to support why you need it, as well as, kind of how they're going to come up with these numbers. Some of it's related to payroll and, benefits, and there's a whole calculation that's going on, especially the things that just got passed on Friday. So it's key for everyone to make sure your financial statements for your business are up to date, and you're ready to kind of access this supporting documentation. Then one of the loans we're going to talk about will convert to a grant. But in order for it to convert to a grant, you need to certify that you have used it in certain ways. And these are larger grants than $10,000, but you have to certify that you've used it specifically how they want you to use it. You need to show payroll reports. You need to show that you paid rent, canceled checks. So there is going to be documentation requirements. So the key right now is just to make sure that, you've got access to all this stuff, your financial statements are up to date, and you're ready to go when they start questioning this. But there definitely will be a certification process that is part of both the beginning and the end of some of these. Okay. So, chaos and confusion, it's getting better though. It was actually worse when they were in the process of putting the bills together. Now, at least we have some stuff documented, but we're really learning about this in real time. Expect that there's going to be some modifications as guidance comes out, right? It might be more documentation requirements. It might be extensions of time. We don't know what that's going to be, even within our own RCOFO team. And we're going back and forth all day long as we learn new things. They are expecting a phase 4 and a phase 5 possibly. So be on the lookout for that. There's more relief coming. Rushing to apply for something might not be the best way to proceed. So we want to make sure that, you're still going, if you do one thing, you're still going to be able to do another, and understand that changes are going to be coming in the coming days. There's really never been a relief or stimulus this big. We've never seen anything like this. So within that means there's going to be some pain points, and you just need to understand, where you need to go and where you need to focus in order to kind of keep moving through the process. Okay. But as we learn more, our recommendations might even change. So, please join our Facebook group. We'll give you the information later so that we can continue to update you as we're learning. Okay. So as we get into the specifics, right, we've had 3 phases so far of the relief. Phase 1, they're calling the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loans. So within this is the $10,000 that Kim was talking about for the grant. But at a really high level, these loans were put into place, I think it was around March 6th. It was very early on. We've come a long way actually since then. But these are 30-year loans up to $2 million, low interest rates. I think they're at 3.75% right now. No collateral is required for anything. You need collateral for anything over $250,000. Anything under does not require collateral. So here's a great example of a change that was made. So the very first, when this first got launched, it was $25,000 was the requirement, and now it's $250,000 of no collateral. That's a big difference and a big change, but example of how things are changing along the way. They're also, with these loans, providing principal and interest deferment, which means that, we know at least after this is over or after you get the loan, you will not have to pay back for at least 6 months, and they're looking at probably 12 months. So that's very important. It's a pretty big deal to not have to pay it back within that amount of time. This loan is available from, go ahead, yeah.
How they're gonna build the payments out, because this is all about improving cash flow. So from these loans, you don't have to pay it back for 6 months, you're saying up to a year. Is there thought about how long the time frame is gonna be for the loan payback?
30 years. These are 30-year loans. Now, let's remember that, because what I'm going to talk about for phase 3 is 10-year loans, right? So from a cash flow perspective, the amount you're allowed to take out, all very important to be keeping in mind, where 30 years is different, obviously, than 10. But
Which
this
is amazing, because a lot of people taking these loans are not going to be in business anymore 30 years from now.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
It's incredible. They really, guys, these programs really are meant to serve people. And there's so much, there's just this negative, and I don't know if you have seen this on social media, which is why I wanted to throw this today. There's so many negative things being said about the way the government's handling it, and you can complain all you want, that's fine. But in general, that's not what's happening in these programs. In these programs, it is 100% small business focused and meant to serve the small business owners. So that's why we're putting this together, because it is going to be shocking, because it is not like anything we had before, but there's so much opportunity there to take advantage of it.
Yep. Now, these loans are a little more flexible than some of the other ones that we'll go through. So really, any operating expenses, working capital, the daily functioning of your business, you can use the proceeds of the loan for that. You're not going to do capital improvements. You're not going to buy equipment with it, any big out of the ordinary purchases. But, everyday expenses, that's what this is for. They've also expanded it to sole proprietors, independent contractors, nonprofits are included, so even just the independent contractor concept. I mean, you really never saw that you really never saw that in any type of SBA programs. They weren't considered a small business, really. So that is just
on that. They had actually said when they first came out with the new unemployment benefits and the $600 additional a week, and how they were funding things, that if you were an independent business contractor or a sole proprietor, you could have filed for unemployment. So my question is, if you filed for unemployment, can you still qualify for some of these other programs? Because it feels like you'd be going to get money both ways.
Well, when you, you really can't double dip, because with these programs, you're going to have to prove that you paid payroll costs. So if you also go, and payroll meaning whatever the type of business you are, that you were using that money to fund, whether your distributions, your payroll, you need to prove that. So if you're getting unemployment, it would be double dipping, and you need to certify. So you're really not going to be able to legally do that. You might be able to get through the cracks, but you shouldn't be doing that.
And that was unfortunate because a lot of those small business owners or the sole proprietors didn't know this would come. So they jumped in there with fear about, and I'm thinking about more in like the retail, restaurant, hairdresser, the hairdresser space is the one I'm thinking about specifically. They have their own independent business. They filed for unemployment. They could have probably gotten more from these programs. So if you haven't filed yet, or you might even want to talk to wait on that long number that you have to call to say you want to withdraw your application because this became available.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing that you want to be looking at. We have several of you guys on here right now, so I want you to take a look at that. And we did have a question from Lou and Tammy who said, when it comes to mortgage, how does that work for a home office? Would it technically be the percentage of mortgage based on an office space being used?
I don't know for sure. They have not given that specifically, but I would say if it's something that you typically look at as an expense of the business, it's a write-off on your tax return, that portion, especially for this loan, I would include it in that.
Yeah, and that's the challenge that happened is that ability to deduct your home office space just was taken away like this year.
I know.
That rule just changed, so I think there's some confusion.
Yeah, that's always like a touchy subject to begin with. So I would try to, but this loan specifically is pretty much all your normal operating expenses. Right. So I would say that would be included in it. The phase 3 that we'll go through, it's actually only mortgage interest that qualifies for it. So that really is like a little bit more of a long shot. But this one, I think it's just part of your normal operating expenses. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
What our feeling is, and what we've been telling our clients, unlike what I would tell my kids when I was raising them, this is the point where you ask for forgiveness as opposed to asking for permission first. So I would suggest, and we're just putting everything on there and giving it a shot. And the worst they can do is come back and say, no, you're not going to be allowed to do this, or you're not going to be able to use this expense to determine the loan value. So, but they haven't come out with anything definitive when it comes to Lou and Tammy's question at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so you guys know the industries that are here. We have computer programmer, information services, we have cybersecurity, there was retail, we have insurance brokers, we have coaches, we have so it's a huge variety, but a lot of non-product, like a lot of non-cost of goods services. So I was like, we're not deducting that as an ongoing expense, but they're also not receiving as much client income because the clients are experiencing.
Right. I just want to go back to the hairdresser example quickly, because when we go into the phase 3, I wouldn't recommend maybe a hairdresser to get a $10,000 grant. I wouldn't recommend a hairdresser to get an SBA loan, which this is. Okay. Right. When we go into phase 3, you're going to see that there are, this is what just came out on Friday. There are loans for periods of time. It's a set dollar amount based on how much you paid yourself last year, essentially at a high level. Unemployment may actually be, for those type of folks, a better option. It's going to last a longer period of time. There's increases to unemployment now. So for everyone, you really need to look at how much you make, how much you are paying yourself, what your expenses are, because unemployment might be still the better option for certain one person show businesses. It might be still the better option. So I don't think them rushing out and doing it necessarily was wrong, is what I want to say, Ken. I think that, yes, there's new options now, but that doesn't mean they're better necessarily than going the unemployment route.
Makes sense.
So, okay.
But again, just from our experience, what we've been seeing recently in Maryland, the independent contractors that we're talking about were not paying into unemployment to some degree if they weren't paying themselves as an employee and they were paying themselves through distributions or as a Schedule C or whatever, and now they're able to apply for unemployment. They may not get that unemployment because their applications aren't going to be taken right away. So they need to be aware of that.
Right. They have to make their systems able to process self-employed income, which is different
Correct.
than if you were getting a true paycheck and a W-2. So that functionality they're working on, they don't have it inherent in their systems right now. But it's the same way that the banks aren't ready to process the loans, right? So we're kind of like, who's done faster and how do I get the most money from it and how long is that money going to last, right? So there's still a lot of, some unknowns and waiting for clarification. Okay, so that was, is there any other questions about this particular one or should I move on?
No, I think we had another question from Lou and Tammy, but I think it might be answered as we keep going. So I'd love for you. Yeah.
Okay. Actually, real quick, Lou and Tammy, I would love to talk to you about what you're asking about because we have a number of clients in the hospitality industry. So there are some specifics for heavily affected industries. So we could talk offline, get a little bit more information with regard to your particular circumstances. And go from there if you so desire. Either Vicky or I can talk to you about it, but we have a number of clients that are geared. One of them's a commercial launderer that all they do is hotel linens. So they've been significantly impacted. Another client of ours does hotel renovations. So we've got a number of clients in that area where we're focusing in on that hospitality for our clients, the specific benefits. So it goes along with the travel industry, but if you'd like, we can talk offline about that.
Sounds good.
All right. So phase 2, we're not going to spend too much time on phase 2 because I don't think it really applies to most people here, but there was a lot of, a lot of focus on phase 2 about 2 weeks ago. And phase 2 was Families First, the Families First Act. And that's where the government was like coming in and protecting the workers, really what it was doing, right? So people who were getting sick, people who had to get quarantined, people who had family members who were getting sick. So they instituted a mandatory paid 2 weeks pay for sick leave, as well as 10 weeks for paid family medical leave, which included caring for someone with coronavirus or caring for your child because their school was closed. So like they really expanded what family medical leave traditionally is considerably, right? It almost includes almost everyone. But where we're finding this really applies is for a business where the employees have to be at the location to actually do their work, and larger businesses where there's a number of people on location working. So for the businesses where people could just convert to work from home, the individuals who are already working from home, this Families First doesn't really apply. But what is critical to know is that if the government shut down a business for some reason where you cannot go to the location and it was a forced shutdown, the employee should really file for unemployment. They're not getting family medical or sick leave or any of these benefits when, or the employer is not required to give these benefits if the employer was required to shut down, okay? And then just at a very high level, they're putting things in place they've put stuff in place so that the employer gets some tax credits when they are required to pay these things. But even the payroll services, right? We're trying to stay on top and in contact with Intuit and other payroll services of how are they actually going to execute this, because there's some complexity with how money is sent to the government for payroll purposes or payroll tax purposes. So I'm not going to go into I don't think I need to go into too much detail on this here, but just so you're hearing Families First. That was about 2 weeks ago, and it really was mostly about paid sick leave. The other thing that they put in place was just making unemployment insurance easier to get, but still around the more traditional unemployment where someone was a true employee, a W-2 worker, and they just made the application process, the requirement that you have to be looking for a job, all those little requirements that all the different states have for unemployment. Phase 2 kind of wiped that out and force the states to make getting unemployment for the traditional worker easier. So again, I don't think, I don't want, there's so many confusing things that I don't want to confuse anyone anymore. Is there anyone that this applies to?
On it, Vicki, I can.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you can keep going.
Okay, good. All right. So now we're going to get into phase 3, which is really the biggie that got approved finally on Friday. So this is known as the CARES Act. But when we're talking about the loans and the grants and all the other options for small businesses, we're really focused on the Paycheck Protection Program, which is a component of the CARES Act. Now, this just got released or approved on Friday. There has been changes since then, clarifications, so we're still learning, but we have a very good general sense of what this entails. So at a high level, a small business can apply for a loan up to 2.5 times their average monthly payroll in the previous year. We've seen previous year, we've seen last 12 months. It doesn't really matter, we'll get more clarification on that because that's kind of still out there, but essentially it's 2.5. So it's like 10 weeks of expenses that this, you can qualify for a loan for. Up to $10 million. I don't think any one of us here has has $10 million of expenses in a 10-week period, but the loan can be up to $10 million. Now this loan is very different because it's only a 10-year term and it's up to 4% interest. So the interest rate is pretty much the same as that phase 1 loan I was talking about, but this one is a 10-year term. Now, what's different with this is, and which is again, something we've just never seen, is as long as you can support it after the fact, there is the ability to apply to have this loan converted to a grant, which is essentially forgiveness of the loan for the 8 weeks period of time. Okay, so you get a loan for 2.5 months worth of, and it's going to include payroll, benefits, rent, utilities, interest on loans or mortgages. You get approved for that amount. And then as long as you're truly using it for those things, and you can prove you are, at the end of that 8-week period, they will, the bank will forgive the loan as long as you can approve it and certify it. Okay, so it essentially gets wiped away and you don't have to pay it back, which is an amazing thing. Now, eligible expenses is compensation, benefits, and then they kind of threw in some other things. So they keep calling it payroll, but there's some other things in there. So rent, utilities, and like I said, interest on loan or mortgage, but just the interest portion. Now, what's not eligible is compensation over $100,000. So it's kind of trying to eliminate highly paid employees, but everyone within 100,000 and under, including folks making more than 100,000, but only $100,000 of their compensation will be included in the calculations and the forgiveness. Now, if you reduce your payroll, right, you start letting people go and you reduce your payroll more than 25% based on, compared to the period of time that they used for the loan amount, your loan forgiveness may be reduced. So they're allowing you to bring back employees. So if people made the wrong decision or think they made the wrong decision of laying people off, and they'd rather go with this approach, they can bring people back. And as long as they're back by the 30th of June, they can still qualify for the loan forgiveness. All right, so that's, again, them trying to keep people employed. That is the main point here. Now, we don't know what documentation specifically is going to be required, but this also is for self-employed folks. So I think they're going to want to see 1099s, prior year tax returns, the things that are going to prove out self-employed income if you're not taking a payroll. But this is for those folks also.
So if you are, those of us who will use paychecks or ADP, you get that documentation now on your payroll. So just be ready, right?
Just be ready. And I'll go through that a little bit. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So the amounts then that if you can't prove it was used for these certain things, or you use it for something else, or they give you more than you really needed for these items because you laid people off, the amounts that are not forgiven, then they just automatically become a loan. And actually it's a loan until it's forgiven. So anything that's not forgiven then needs to be paid back over 10 years. As with the very first loan in phase 1, they're saying there will be a deferment of at least 6 months. You don't have to pay it back for at least 6 months. And we're assuming that will probably also get pushed to a year. as this thing gets, keeps going, I think that there's going to be more flexibility there.
But what I will say, there is a silver lining to all of this, because if we go back to December of 2019 and you were a small business and you went to go get a loan, there was going to be a lot more scrutiny and on your loan application. There was going to be personal guarantees. You were probably only going to get a loan with a 5 to 7 year term and anywhere between 7 to 12% interest. Now you're going to be able to get a loan. Granted, there's a formula they're going to use to determine how much you can actually get, but there's no personal guarantee. There's no other collateral that needs to be put up. The loan period's being extended out to 10 years, and it's at a very low interest rate at 4%. And you got 6 months that are a minimum of 6 months that are going to be deferred. So it's a lot better on your cash flow moving forward as the dust settles, as we're saying, and as we come out the other side of this. So that's the one silver lining, is that you're going to probably be able to get a loan where you may not have been able to get a loan before, or it would have been a little bit more onerous because there would have been a lot more restrictions, such as collateral and guarantees and that. So we have to be thankful that we've got this, there is a silver lining here.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning, where, what were you trying to do with your business before? What are you trying to do with your business after? And you could potentially utilize some of these programs to help, propel your business after. But again, knowing that you are taking out a loan and it's something that has to be paid back. So you need to be weighing all the options. But yes, we are trying to see the silver lining, because we know how hard it is to get this type of funding normally. So there is some benefits there.
So if you want to take advantage, can you take advantage of both parts of it? Like, can you take it to use it for other things other than the qualified, get 2.5 months of payroll forgiven, and then pay the rest of it off over that period? So you can.
Yes, absolutely. It's basically, if they're going to determine your payroll, they're going to determine the amount of the loan on historical numbers of payroll. So whatever your historical numbers of payroll are, let's just say it's $100. They're going to give you a loan for $100. What you use that for moving forward will determine how much of that $100 will be forgiven. So let's just say you only use $50 of it for payroll during this time frame that they're talking about, February 15th through June 30th. Then the $50 will be forgiven once they verified everything, and you will have a loan for 10 years of 4% at 4% on that leftover $50. Is that helpful, Kim?
Yeah, but they will only give you a loan up to the amount of what your payroll is. Is that what you're saying?
Historical payroll.
Right, but payroll is this larger concept that includes, for some reason, because it doesn't make sense, rent, utilities, and these other things. So let's say you have a conversation with your landlord and they defer your rent for 3 months. You still can get that money in this loan, right? And then use it for other things. And then you pick up your rent later on when it's no longer.
And it'll be forgiven. The rent payment will be forgiven because it's included in this.
Yeah.
Right. Correct.
Great. Thank you.
So definitely ways to work it, right? And I think everyone's situation is like a little different. So it's hard to give this like really high level, but there's flexibility here and decisions, some strategic decisions that need to be made like that. Do I even want it forgiven, or should I use it for other things?
Well, and I also think this is so hopeful for those of you who do service other businesses, because they are about to get better cash flow if they qualify for this. Those of you who rely upon them,
that's the point.
Contracts, it's now they have 2.5 months of not having to pay their biggest expense, right? And so they then have that ability to use capital in other ways. So those of you who are waiting for like my web developers, my marketer, those folks, they're like, okay, well, they're now going to have dollars for lead generation, ready to have your programs in place for them to buy.
Right.
Another strategy that we're starting to implement with our clients that I pulled from my days of being a recovering attorney is taking this money that if you have money that you can utilize and you have outstanding debt with some of your with some vendors, to turn around and try to negotiate down that debt for a lump sum payment, because everybody's going to be looking to get cash right now. And so therefore, you're going to free up your balance sheet and clean your balance sheet up for cents on the dollar. In addition, what we've also done with some of our clients is we have been working with them for their outstanding receivables to turn around and offer a percentage off. Let's say if you pay within 10 days, you're going to get 15% off of your outstanding balance. So traditionally slow pays that you may not want to bring back as a client or a customer when the dust settles, you can turn around and get paid for them and get that lump sum now and clean up that AR off your balance sheet and not have to worry about collecting or letting it sit and sit and sit for 90 days, 120 days, or having to expend money through the legal system to collect on it. So there are little strategies that you can use now to help with your cash flow outside of just going after these through the CARE Act or any of the other relief or stimulus packages that are out there between the federal government and the state governments.
And even to time some of those offers to pay, to either advance pay for a discount or pay when you know that people are getting funded. Because again,
Right.
when people are richer in capital, they're much more likely to spend. So that's a great time to make the ask.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we just did that with the commercial launderer that I was telling you about. They have about 600, between their two facilities, they have about 600,000 in AR. The majority of it is 60 days old. They offered a 15% discount on all of that, and they ended up collecting 300,000 of that 600,000 right away. So within 10 days, they had $300,000 cash in their bank account that they can use, and now we're going to use it to take care of some of the outstanding AP that's been on their balance sheet.
Nice.
Okay, so just as far as who's, how you get this, eligible entities are going to be able to apply if they were harmed between February 15th and June 30th, right? So really from the way beginning of this. And loans are going to be available as of right now through June 30th. I suspect it's going to get extended, but that's what's in the bill right now. Businesses must have been in operation as of February 15th. And like we said, we're talking about corporations, sole proprietors, nonprofits, independent contractors. It's everyone, less than 500 employees, right? So that's a big pot of businesses and contractors. Expect documentation and certification requirements, right? And the certification might just be a letter saying, I am honestly saying that this is how it was used, but they will require you to, definitely say, I used it the way it was intended as far as the funds. And then another thing that's interesting is loan forgiveness. So when it turns into the grant, it's not included in income for the recipient. Normally, if a loan is forgiven, that becomes taxable income. So that was actually something that they remembered to put in place so that these loans, when they're forgiven, there's no negative consequence on the income side. Okay, that might just be more interesting to a CPA, but that was a kind of a big deal too. Okay, and then as far as the lenders go, there's current SBA lenders that have just been giving SBA loans all along, but they're also authorizing new lenders. So this morning I heard the number of, they're expecting an additional 11,000 new banks and credit unions offering this. But then we've also had conversations with banks that we have relationships with that are saying they don't want to do this and they actually may not participate in the program. So we're kind of getting different. It might be the government's intention versus the reality, but they are expecting a very high volume, as Demeet mentioned earlier. So just I think Demeet and Kim both were saying, start with the business of the bank where you do business with. And I don't mean necessarily that you have a loan with them. I mean, like, where is your business bank account? Go to them first. There's already a relationship, because you might not be able to get into one where you don't have one. So we all have banking relationships, even on the personal side. So, that's where you want to start. So some other things with the CARES Act that we've all been kind of hearing about is the 2020 rebates, right? So the checks that are going out, it's going to be based on 2019 income if you filed already. If not, it'll be 2018. There is a phase out, so not everyone is going to get this, but that you know, those checks or payments is what you're hearing about that got approved on Friday. There's going to be some tax relief for employers with delaying payroll taxes. That really only comes into play if you are truly paying, you know, a large group of people on payroll. And then there's expanded unemployment insurance. So like we mentioned earlier, they're going to include small business owners and self-employed, which we never saw before. The federal government has also pushed down to the states funding to allow for $600 per week more. So all the states have different levels of their maximum unemployment. And part of this act is to increase that maximum so that when people are laid off and have to apply, it's not as big of a gap between what they were making before to what their unemployment income is. And of course, it's because they want people to be spending money, you know, paying their bills and keeping the economy rolling. And then also there's an additional 13 weeks of unemployment, which is pretty significant also. So that was all part of everything that got put in place on Friday. So what can you do right now? So the very first, you know, first we're saying talk to your advisor, whoever that may be. Typically your CPA, your tax accountant. Talk to someone that can help you look at your individual situation and break down what the best approach is for you. We are happy to chat, so please feel free to email us and we'll hop on a call, you know, and just kind of go through our thoughts and recommendations. Kim, did you want to, was there a question?
Nope.
Okay. Definitely join our Facebook group. You know, we're going to be keeping members updated on all aspects of the stimulus and navigating your business through this. We are going to be holding Facebook Lives twice a week, where it'll be us sharing information as well as we're going to be bringing on experts within our network, bankers, insurance agents, you know, everyone that kind of has a little piece of this overall financial relief. So we're going to be bringing those on. So, you know, at least join in just for the benefit of the Facebook Lives. Start talking to your banks like we talked about. Start putting your documentation together. So like Kim said, all right, you're using a payroll service, start pulling those reports. Like we know you're going to need year-to-date financial statements for this CARES Act and paycheck protection. We know you're going to need payroll reports. For 2019, when you paid contractors, right, you don't pay them with, you don't have that in payroll reports. You're going to need their 1099s that you sent them. Healthcare premiums, get those bills together because that's included. Retirement contributions you made. So these, you know, we don't even have exactly what they're going to be looking for, but we know these are some of the requirements. And be ready to be, you know, to certify. So you want to say, yes, there was a loss in revenue, there was an impact, right? We have, we have a client whose contracts are being canceled. We have a client who, you know, appointments are being canceled. So ways to show how I was affected by this. Because in some cases or most of these cases, you're going to need to say, this is how I was affected by it. And then these are the expenses that the loan is going to cover. So just be kind of ready for that. So as people are canceling something, you know, print those emails out, you know, kind of keep that folder to the side as things are progressing.
Now, in times of financial need, especially when there's confusion, panic, chaos, there are people who are not on the up and up that use this as an opportunity to prey upon those that are in need. So I've already heard reports of individuals being contacted by shady lenders who are offering, you know, who are saying that this will be able to be forgiven and not paid back. And they're doing a lot of shady, and this is all about, you know, they're taking a percentage of sales and they're getting their 40% interest loans and nothing that's part of this program. So how can someone tell? Because there will be legitimate services for people who will help you navigate this. Help you find a bank, because there are people who are overwhelmed and don't know how to do it. how can someone tell if the person contacting them is of the up and up or not?
Go ahead, Vic, do you have to jump in?
No, you're smiling. Go ahead, you go.
So the first thing is, if you reach out first to your bank, to people that you already are working with, trusted advisors, that's going to limit substantially any charlatans, any fraudulent activities. But let's just say you don't have attorneys that you've worked with or banks that you work with or a relationship or a CPA firm or a CFO firm or whatever, and you're just going out, or somebody reaches out to you and it seems too good to be true. Usually if it's too good, if it sounds too good to be true, it is. But first, find out if they're SBA approved. You can do that by going onto the SBA site, and they have their who they've approved and who they haven't. Well, they just have who they have approved and who's authorized to do business on behalf of the SBA or to process these. There are going to be other sites, I'm sure, popping up, from state sites to government sites, authoritative sites, that will show you who is able to assist you. If somebody's going to be taking or asking for monies to process this, then that's a sign that they may not be on the up and up. I'm not saying that they aren't going to be, but that's just signs that they may not be. One of the other ways to determine is if they start telling you, oh, there's going to be fees, points, or origination fees for the loan. None of these loans, none of these packages they're going to be charged origination fees or points. If they start talking about interest rates over 4%, then they're not on the up and up, because none of these deals or none of the financing on any of these packages are going to be over 4% as of right now. I mean, some of the states are even lower. Maryland has on one of their loans, one of their packages, 0% interest for the first year, 2.75% for the next 3 years thereafter. So no one's going to be over 4%, which is the most. So you have a good idea of what the eligibility requirements are based on what Vicky's gone over today and what the terms are going to be. So any deviation from those is a potential warning sign that you're not dealing with somebody who is on the up and up, and probably dealing with somebody who's trying to prey upon you. But feel free to reach out. I'm sure every one of your tribe has attorneys that they've worked with. They might want to reach out to them to see. But again, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of information out there on the government sites as to who is able to do and process these loans. So
you guys know, to me, they have their email address up there, but to me, it's also been a member of Power Drive for years too. So you know that he's a fellow member within the organization. Okay. Dana said, I'm wondering how the payment for 1099 contractors come into play with this Payroll Protection Act, if at all. We have both employees and contractors that we pay. As a business, I'm wondering if there's a way to pay our independent contractors as part of this loan that may also be forgiven.
Yes, they are included. So when you certify your payroll, it will be, you have to use your payroll reports, like I was saying in the last slide, as well as the 1099 contractor. So they're looking at, in no other way do you ever want your 1099s to be considered employees, but in this case, they are being considered employees. So you just have to be able to prove the payments, which as of right now, they're saying are based on 1099s from 2019. There will probably be other ways to prove it out too, even just the actual payments, canceled checks, bank statements. But they are definitely included in the definition of an employee for these purposes.
So the only thing I'm gonna ask Vicki a question on this one, because you and I were talking about this yesterday with regard to 1099ers that are individuals versus 1099ers that are already companies. Have you seen anything in your work in researching that the contractors that are the 1099 contractors that are companies can also be included into the loan package?
There's no specification. I would say if someone's getting a 1099, that they can be included as a contractor. If it's an individual, you know, even if it's a business name that's being used, right? Because there's an EIN, that person you can support as an individual doing services for the business in an employee type capacity on a regular basis. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. It's, you know, when we look at what the regular expenses are, you want to keep that, they want to keep that person employed. They want that person to be making money right now. So it all kind of, you can support it in several ways. So definitely yes is the answer to Dana's question. And I don't have the specifics on the exact amount, but I'm pretty confident that they'll be included.
So forgiveness as opposed to permission again.
Correct. Because if, again, anything I've been part of, it's they want people working. They don't want people not making their income. So, you know, when you're looking at how to interpret certain things, you got to take a step back and say, you know, the purpose of this would not be to stop, you know, Sally 1099 contractor from making money during this time. So yeah, so we're going to say that's all included.
Now,
so Dana, what I will say, I'm sorry, Kim, Dana,
Yeah.
what I'll say, even from our perspective, all of our team members are 1099 contractors, including Vicky. Some of them have companies, some of them don't. If I decide to put a package to apply for this package for Results CFO, we're going to put all of our 1099 contractors, regardless of whether they're a company with their own PIN number or an individual, into that package to increase the amount of the loan. So that's the approach that I'm taking. So be that, you know,
Yep.
take it for what it's worth.
I did have a question from one of our members who shot me a text during this presentation that he wanted to know if he is going to go for the loan forgiveness loan, that SBA loan. Can he also take out an additional SBA loan, the ones that were originally offered, in order to use to purchase a building? Like, can you have multiple?
Okay. So two things there. You
Yep.
cannot use, you can take out two loans, but both of them, but you cannot use them for the same things. So if you're taking out the first one for whatever reason, you can't use it for payroll and then also get it forgiven on the third, you know, phase 3 payroll protection, because then you're using it for the same thing. Because you do have to, in phase 1, say what you're using it for. Buying equipment or any capital improvements or any of that stuff does not qualify. It is working capital only. It's monthly expense, ongoing monthly expenses. So there's SBA. So I'm sorry, what was the purchase he was looking to make? What did he say?
A building.
A building. That would be a completely separate SBA loan that has nothing to do with any of the government stimulus during this period of time. So if he gets an SBA loan outside of this, buys a building, he can probably still get the payroll protection. He just can't do a phase 1 economic injury loan for a building and then also do a payroll protection, because a building won't qualify for phase 1. Does that make sense? There was kind of two things there that I just needed to clarify.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And then one of our Inner Circle members, Dr. Russell Strickland, said, can you list incorporated contractors whom you paid but did not explicitly 1099 for the loan amount? I have contractors whom I have 1099 and corporate contractors who I haven't 1099 in the past. I think you just said yes. They're going to probably come up with ways to show those expenses other than 1099s.
They have to, because a lot of folks are set up as corporations, even though they're one person. So, you know, they've said 1099s probably because they don't even know that this exists. A lot of this, I think the government, these people don't really know what goes on in reality. So as long as, you know, look, they're including rent in this. How do you prove that you paid rent? Well, you're going to show your bank statement. You're going to show a canceled check. To me, that's going to be the same thing. As long as you can show some sort of proof that this was an ongoing expense, then that will be included.
We believe, I mean, they may change it, this is our interpretation. There's no guidance yet. There's no instructions, no interpretation. This is how we're interpreting it.
They don't know. They don't know how to give the guidance because they don't.
That's the lawyer in me. I got to disclaim everything.
Yeah. But I would be confident. They want people working. They don't want that person's income to go to zero. Therefore, they're going, it's I'd say 99.9% that they will convert that to, it'll be included.
Yeah. Now, Tristan, you said the $10,000 that Kim mentioned, is it a loan that needs to be paid back? No, that's the one that is a grant.
Grant, correct.
And I'll post the link in here for everyone again. Okay, Rich Sheffrin said, and by the way, grant means no, you don't have to pay back. They're granting you money and you don't pay back. Rich shared, if you own several companies, can you submit for each company individually?
Yes. So it's based on the EIN from what I know so far. And yes, you can submit for each company is a separate entity.
Right. And the SBA traditionally has what's called affiliate companies, where you can only apply for an SBA loan for one of your group of companies, but they're waiving that affiliate eligibility requirement for these loans, at least definitively for CARES Act. And I believe the EIDL it's been waived for as well.
Right, but that normally comes into play if it's more than 500 employees. So if we're talking about like multiple small businesses, most likely you're not going over 500. So yes, it's individual companies, and there's nothing to worry about from an affiliate perspective.
As long as the books are clean and separated and all that. But it's going to be based on the FIN numbers.
Right.
Yep. Okay, so there's some concern by Tristan who posted, but the page says, so I put the link in there for the page says it's loan, loose definition. It's the COVID-19 economic injury disaster loan application.
Okay, and that is okay. So which one? That's the
$10,000 grant one.
Okay, so everything initially is called a loan. The economic injury, as well as the Phase 3 CARES Act. They are all loans that then convert to a grant. So, and I think that from your $10,000 one, it's just immediate, but everything is being called a loan initially. So like the CARES piece and payroll protection, you are getting a loan, and then you have to prove that you used it in a certain way and it will be converted to a grant. So yeah, I'm not surprised that that's the wording. Because they're kind of starting at, you're going for the loan and then you'll get a grant.
But even when you go through it, when you fill that application, you'll see they're literally asking for they're asking for nothing other than to tell them your numbers. You're not having to share what you're using it for. You're not showing your current, like it is not, you're only asked for your EIN and your social security number of owner. That's it. That is the grant program. That's why it's so easy to fill out. This was one just like, let's give businesses some money. They need it right now. And then we're going to figure things out later. Does it make sense? No, based on anything we've seen before? No, but thankfully they're doing this.
Well, what's interesting though, Kim, is that like the website was crashing for a while when they first released it. So you got right in there. That was good.
Yeah.
It was down for 3 days earlier this week, or last week. It was down Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I think it went back up Thursday.
Yeah. So it's good now, and I mean they have a good bit of money. It's going to be, I mean, in that the fact that it's $10 billion going towards this, and so this grant specifically, but still at some point it's going to run out. So don't sit on this. Go after it, which is why we wanted to get this workshop out, even though we don't have all the details on all the programs. You're like, we want you guys to be prepared. Jennifer, yes, this is being recorded, so we will post this for all of our members as well, so you have a copy for that too.
So Kim, that's why we have the Facebook group, so that people can go back and can go and check the updates.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So what, do you have a link you want to post in for me that I can share to everybody?
I believe I do, because this is our first foray into Facebook groups and all of that. So let me see. I think Jackie got it for us.
Everybody. If you guys have any other questions, go ahead and post them into the chat.
Well, I know you can definitely search Survive, Thrive, Triumph for businesses and find it in Facebook groups. You definitely want to get the for businesses piece, because there's a lot of Survive, Thrive groups out there, I noticed.
What was Survive?
Thrive, Triumph for businesses.
Okay. See if I can get it for you. No problem. All right, everyone. And also, I will get you that link. We're searching for it quick, and they're also trying to pull it up. I also wanted to give you, if you came on in here a little late, we have a free workshop tomorrow as well. Tomorrow's workshop is all about how to set up an online sales funnel. And we're going to give you all those that register are going to receive. Oh, and Kelly posted the link to everybody. Oh, to the panelists. Okay, I'll post it to everybody then. And there's the easy button workshop for tomorrow. It's going to show you how to set up a sales funnel. I'm actually going to give you a sales funnel done that you'll be able to launch right away. And here is the Facebook group link. They're offering this as a service. They're not charging for that Facebook group. I encourage you to join in order just to see what's going on in the marketplace, so you know how to service your business the best way. Things are changing. I mean, we were all, I don't know about you guys, but I was in shock of how many things they included in this act and how small business they're being.
Yeah.
It's usually not. That is not the number one way that laws are made. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, of course, there were other things snuck in there that have nothing to do with small business, but, you know, that's not what we're worried about right now. Focusing on all of our members and making sure they get what they need is great. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for joining us today and willing to do this with a day's notice. You did an amazing job. Any last words you want to share with us?
Go ahead, Vic.
No, I would just say, you know, as far as the Facebook group, I think there's going to be a lot of information in there in the next 2 weeks with updates and everything. So if you're considering joining, join now so you'll get all of those. We're starting our Facebook Lives on Thursday. And as we learn more, we're just going to be getting it out there and folks can continue to ask us questions. So it's just the easiest way for us to, you know, keep the conversation going. But this was great. All really good questions.
And the other thing about the Facebook group is what we're also looking at it for is kind of a way for business owners and operators to talk to each other and tell each other what's working, what's not working. So there's communication going to help us all out so we can all learn from each other. But I would just like to say thank you to everybody for allowing us the opportunity to make this presentation. Kim, thank you for reaching out to us. I was honored that you reached out to us. It was very nice. So thanks again.
Thank you for joining us, and everybody, thanks for being on here.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good luck.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.